All right, everyone. Good morning here from OPEX Midlands. My name is Josh Houston. We're going to be starting, Scott and I, a series, hopefully weekly here. I think, for lack of a better term, we'll just call it SFAS prep for now, since that's the main stated goal we're going to have. Bottom line up front, my name is Josh Houston. Like I said, I'm a National Guardsman, 5 years in. I'm an infantry officer, a first lieutenant, and it's kind of come to that point where I have this inflection point in my career where this is the chance I have to go and attend some of these high-speed schools like SFAS and hopefully Ranger at some point in the future too. So for the last 8 weeks, I've been starting. Scott has been my coach, and he'll be my coach moving forward through the rest of the year and through 2024 as we prepare for SFAS. And so kind of the bottom line up front here is to really document what we're doing, why we're doing it, and kind of make it this grand experiment to see, is this going to work? Am I going to be physically prepared for the rigors of some of these Army courses that we're wanting to do? And for me, my favorite part about being in the Army and being an officer is the coaching and teaching aspect of it. On the side, I coach a high school cross country team as well. I'm a volunteer locally here, and that's my favorite part of working with soldiers and having that time to coach and mentor. So this is a way for me to do that kind of on a broader scale as well. And I'll hand it over to Scott for some of his why as well, and a little background on him.
Yeah, sure. So thanks, Josh. Scott Brewer. I am basically, for lack of a better word, I'm a personalized strength and conditioning endurance coach. I actually had my start in the endurance spectrum many years ago. Fell in love with strength and conditioning, led me down this path. The cosmic things that be led me to eventually own my own facility. But the why of what I do is, my goal is to change basically the whole framework of fitness and what makes fitness, and make it more acceptable for the mainstream. However, I love specializing. I've absolutely love working with Josh. As a non-commissioned officer with 8 years active duty myself, I know not all of the rigors of the military. However, I do know what's entailed with living that kind of life, and there's no regrets. And I look forward to this journey and preparing you as best I can for what lies ahead in the near future, and of course through 2024. So yeah, the why is, dude, we're just going to make you bulletproof.
Love it.
As best we can.
Love it. All right, Scott. So I really like what you just said about having you're an endurance coach. You've seen both the active duty world. You want to make help me be bulletproof. I know for me, that's a big part of why I want coaching and training. We might go into this a bit more in depth in a few minutes here, but it's so easy to just go hard and hurt yourself. So from your perspective, why do you think it's hopefully a wise decision from me to seek out a coach and a training program?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. Number one, yes, when you think about for lack of a better, let's just look at HUA, right? The Army mantra, like, we're going to go hard, we're going to go fast, we're going to go as hard as we can, we're not going to leave anything on the floor, right? We're going to go to exhaustion, and then we're going to dig a little deeper. And in SFAS, absolutely, that's okay.
Right.
But what we don't want to do is burn you out up until it's time to go to SFAS. The goal right now is to make you as robust, as bulletproof, and as resilient as possible, so that when we go into, when I say it's collective we, right? When you go into SFAS, you are recovered, but mainly the fact of all the work we've put in, that slow, arduous, for lack of a word, just grinding, right? The boring stuff is going to pay huge dividends when it's time to toe the line.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's about, right? So we're going to go hard. There's going to be opportunities to go hard. There's going to be opportunities to push to your limit, maybe a little bit past it, and then we're going to back off, let you recover from that. And that's the goal going up into SFAS, because we know sleep deprivation, stress, lack of food, lack of mental acuity, lack of cognitive function, all that's going to come into play. We don't want to mess with that right now.
Right.
We want to get you as strong as we can until that point.
Right.
And that's the slow, boring work. That's where we are. That's that phase.
Yeah.
That's that phase, yeah.
No, I agree with you there 100%. I've definitely gone into some of these Army events and not been, as prepared, because a lot of these types of courses, they're not the end of the line. They're the very start or the very beginning.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I kind of coined a term in my head that I'm going to say out loud here called luck management. We call it risk management or risk mitigation in the Army a lot.
Of course.
But the fact of the matter is, a lot of these courses, there's a lot of luck involved, and you've got to do your best to manage that luck, however it may be. So part of it can be walking through the woods under nods, and you step wrong and you break an ankle or whatever.
Sure.
Part of that, though, you can maybe mitigate that luck a little bit by having really strong ankles, really strong core, doing the things you need to do there. Part of it, during SFAS in particular, land nav, it's like a big thing, a whole week of land nav, Well, is it really bad luck that, you didn't prepare long enough to be cognitively aware with a ruck on your back for hours and days at a time? Or can you do some things here and now to, again, mitigate that luck piece to it? So definitely I think a big part from my end is, do a lot of the things that I wasn't doing prior to, strengthening hips, strengthening shoulders, and rucking consistently as well.
Yeah.
That I think has been a big part of why I wanted to do this and work with you as well. I've seen through the training program that we've done so far, some moving into some athletic history for me. I actually just recently came off of a pretty big injury that's atypical. So I'm dealing with something called pericarditis that happened in June at the end of my annual training in the Guard. And so I had to take a month and a half off training. So we've been working to really back at full speed since August 14th. And so this is actually the second time this has happened in the last year. So as we move forward, that's a big part of why I wanted a longer ramp to try out for either Ranger or SFAS, but SFAS particularly, because you really, I have to kind of build up some of those elements again, and I want to do it the smart way for sure. So kind of looking back, what's been your thought process the last 2 months as we've been kind of ramping up training, and maybe talk through some of the things that we've done? Yeah,
sure. So obviously the number one goal right now is resiliency and muscle endurance, mm-hmm. with an emphasis on cardiovascular fitness.
Right.
If you're going to ruck, you got to be able to ruck. If you're going to run, you got to be able to run, right? Mm-hmm. So the strength and conditioning that we are adding into is secondary, mm-hmm. to the rucking and the running. I mean, just flat out. So what we don't want to do is make the strength so much that it's going to take away from the endurance aspect of it, right? So the strength should complement instead of take away.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we are with the heart thing that we had going on. You said it, right? Luck management, right? Mm-hmm. So it actually worked out great. I mean, I know maybe the timetable got moved forward a
Sure.
little bit or further in the future,
mm-hmm.
but like I said, to build that resiliency, I think it was great. These past few months, there's been a huge stride and a huge gain in fitness with cardiovascular
mm-hmm.
fitness from doing the slow, tedious, boring stuff,
right?
We got to build that base. So if there's a pyramid, SFAS is on the top of that pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
Right now we're in the bottom of it. That's the bulk of what we're doing. So with that in mind, we'll start to streamline and get more with a theory of specificity, right? So, who's to say that, and I'm not going to talk about the future too much, but who's to say in like late December, early January, I don't make you do a 3 a.m. ruck march. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Just to, because it's going to suck.
Right.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
we've got to dip our toe in some suckiness before SFAS. So.
Absolutely.
But right now, huge strides in fitness, base aerobics, putting your head down, grinding it out, and that's what it's all about. And that's the foundation, if you will. We're in the foundation phase.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and part of that plays into the fact that, trying to attend SFAS is a multi-step process for a guardsman in particular. It is obviously for active duty. You've got to drop a packet, do a lot of prep. For an officer, you got to be that first lieutenant promotable to captain range, which is where I'm at. And so for me, my 50-meter target is that what's called the Special Forces Readiness Evaluation. So the states, Utah, North Carolina, and a bunch of other detachments around. They'll hold their own internal tryouts basically before they let you attend SFAS. And so that's what I'm shooting for, is a January attendance date there. And so for that, we've also got some fun things, I consider fun things, to kind of keep the eye on the ball as well. Half marathon coming up in November, we're working on that, and then all night type of endurance ultra type loop run that we'll talk more about that as it comes to. But with the eye on the ball, like, yes, we're talking about SFAS prep. Right now the training is focused on building the aerobic capacity, like you mentioned, and then driving towards crushing SFRE, because
Correct.
especially as an officer, I've got a couple buddies that have gone through SFRE specifically through the Guard, even with the unit that I want to go to, and officers don't really get multiple shots at this. You get your shot, you go and you crush it, and it is what it is. And specifically in this instance, the SFRE is push-ups, no sit-ups anymore, although I'm sure they may add the plank back in now due to the ACFT, and now that the schoolhouse over at SWIC, the Special Warfare Center down for Liberty, they're doing the plank now as well. 2-mile run, 5-mile run, 12-mile ruck march, and some rope climbs. That's the SFRE at the state I'm trying to go to. And so we're doing a lot of specificity there. Like I said, we haven't lifted really heavy in the gym. I'm totally fine with that as well. My deadlift for the ACFT is right at the max, and it will just very basic maintenance lifting is going to keep it there. And so there's other things though, both on the ACFT and just our SFAS prep, that we got to be focused on right now. And I think that's probably something that kicks people's butts a lot in the Army side of the house. Is like, very rarely do you come across something like you really can't lift, or that it's that big of a deal. My company commander cares that I can't ruck or run and keep up with the guys on lanes, on a ruck march, on whatever the case may be. So definitely that cardiovascular aerobic piece. I love it, luckily, even though I'm not naturally a great runner. But it's that's what we're doing. That's what the training is focused on right now. And then talking a little bit about accountability too, Scott. I think that's a big reason I did it too, just because it's, I'm not a superhuman. I struggle, I would guess, 70% of the days that I wake up, I don't want to really work out, but you just have to get up and do it. And that can improve as you get more consistent. I think that that gets better as well over time. But I don't really want to have to think about my training so much. I want to be able to spend more mental energy on the execution of it. Because even with that, I've had workouts I've had to miss. I'm busy even while I'm on my paternity leave. That's okay, but that's what a coach and the accountability piece is for, I think.
Yeah, I think that you got a couple things going accountability-wise, and a lot of people, especially soldiers, speaking from the enlisted side and the non-com side, is a lot of times we're forced to do things. Right.
Yep.
And it's not an elective. It's like, you're going to get up at 5 a.m. We're going to PT 6 days a week, or 5 days a week at least. Every once in a while we give you a 4-day. But for the most part, you are basically ordered to train nonstop. So it becomes more like a punishment, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, why do football players hate to run? Because every time they miss a play, they had to run a mile, right? It's punishment, right? Mm-hmm. So when you look at the accountability of having a coach, the coach isn't going to make you do that workout, but the coach is going to be there and knowing that, hey, this is on this piece of paper. Somebody spent the time and the resources to come up with this plan that's individually designed for me. Part of you is like, I have to develop this habit, but a part of you is also like, I don't want to let this guy down, right?
Absolutely.
So there's that accountability, and of course accountability to yourself. So, like you said, paternity leave, man, that's huge, right? So you got an infant at home, right? So that's eating a lot of the clock. So for you to develop that habit to like, okay, look, I haven't slept 4 or 5 hours, but I've got to get this in, because whether I like it or not, January is right around the corner, right? Time stops for no man. Yeah. I mean, that's cliche, but time stops for no man, right? So you have to get that work in. The accountability of the coach, the accountability of the program, and the accountability of yourself is like a perfect triad, right? So that's how I look at that accountability. And once again, we're building that resilience. A lot of people, when they start an exercise program, especially trying to do it on your own, right? Like looking at a templated program, this is going to get you to SFRE, this is going to get you to SFAS. The problem with the templated program is you're just looking at a piece of paper, but there's no accountability, right?
Right.
Not only that, it doesn't take the individual into aspect.
Right.
Like it's not the individual. You may be able to throw 50 pounds on your back and go for 2 hours, but a PFC fresh off the block is probably not going to be able to do that, right? So a templated program is not ideal. But I'm losing my train of thought there. I apologize. But what I'm saying is, if the individual approach is always going to meet you where you are and build that bridge to get you to your goals, instead of like starting, okay, I want you to deadlift 340 today. You may never even pull 2 1/4 off the ground.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's how I look at the coach aspect of it and the accountability within.
Yeah, and it's from my perspective too. It's one of the pros and the cons of being in the National Guard is you can design your own workout program. You're accountable to yourself, but that's a double-edged sword too. Like you can be in pretty good shape just doing the Army workouts if you do your best. It may not be optimal for you or for what you're training for, and very unit dependent, very leadership dependent. So for me, I've got to take the attitude that, hey, you've got a blessing here that you design your own workouts, take full advantage of that. And when you can, get workout partners, get workout groups, and do things too, So, yeah, very, very important aspect to it. No, I view it as accountability to my coach also helps me to set the conditions to get the workouts done, do the things that you've laid out for me too. So, some of those days that I do things purposely or unwittingly that make me not ready to go exercise that day. So hey, that just means you have to improve, iterate, and do better the next week or the next day. Eat better, sleep better if you can to make those conditions more ideal. So kind of to briefly look ahead, right now we're hitting an ideal, or I would love to be like an ideal training split for the rest of my life if I could, which is 5 to 6 days of some endurance, aerobic capacity work, and 2 to 3 days of some kind of strength training. So last week, this week, it's been pretty similar where we ruck Monday, Wednesday, run Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Those are all in the morning, and then we'll try and hit 2 to 3 days, typically Monday, Wednesday, and now adding in Friday as well of the lifting piece. That's kind of how it's been the last 8 weeks or so. How do you foresee that moving forward as we kind of wrap up our chat here too?
Yeah, so great question. So you hit it right on the head with what we're doing right now, building that base and that foundation of strength. So with that goal of the half marathon coming up in next month, that's going to be a solid litmus test. It's going to be fantastic. So we're going to look at aerobic capacity there. Like no better way to test aerobic capacity than toe the line and let's go. Right. So we're going to get some solid pacing from there. Then going into the mental aspect with the ultra. Right. That's going to be huge, and that's going to pay dividends to the mental aspect of like. There's going to be times where you're thinking, I don't want to take another step, but you're just going to keep doing it, right? So after that, then we're going to actually do a paradigm shift to where you're going to be, for lack of a better word, an aerobic machine by then, right? So then we're going to go into the specificity training of how can we get super strong and fast for the SFRE. Right, and that's going to be the focus going in through the holidays, right? So after those holidays, then we've got some really, really good data from the SFRE. Right. Obviously, the goal is you're going to crush it. Right. And then we start looking at what do we got to do to prepare for SFAS?
Yeah, and I like that. And
Ranger School, or whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To me, and maybe this is a mistake of ours, but the SFAS, for some context, it's shorter, 3 weeks long. Very intense though the whole time. Ranger School, it's kind of a longer grind because it's 62 days plus. And part of the reason I chose to do SFAS first was because of my heart. I think it's going to be able to handle the shorter time frame a bit better first. Now, to talk through some times, hopefully this won't get too crazy, but I love data. I know Scott does too. I'm open on Strava, an open book to to anyone to follow and see where we're at. So like the nice part is this half marathon coming up November 11th, 12th, 13th. Can't remember the exact date. We have data from last year. I'm doing the exact same one I did last year. Hit a 145-ish last year, so right at that 8-minute pace. And the funny part is, in April I trained for another half marathon here in town in Columbia that was pretty hilly, the Governor's Cup, and ran that in 136. So right at that 7:20-ish pace, right? So very good, I would say, cardiovascular fitness for the Army in general. Hit during that training block. Also hit a 12:46 2-mile with zero track workouts. Frankly, I was running 30 to 50 miles a week of just easy base running. Now, I'm hoping to hit another 145 on this easier half marathon course, maybe a bit better. We'll see how the cardio is. It may not be. I know it's not going to be April's level. That's okay. We had a heart problem in between. Life goes on. There really is that balance, though, of like we want to be able to crush the 5-miler, and I think there's a world where you crush the 5-mile in sub 35. Ran a few sub 35 efforts as well during that April-March training block. But you also got to be able to ruck, 2:30 or faster.
Yeah.
Hopefully that 2:15 range is what we'd like to get to. Right now, I love the rucking has been smart because I've broken myself off several times rucking by just, hey, let's increase the mileage too fast and go max effort every single time. That's not the training philosophy here. Like
Correct.
you said,
Correct.
bulletproof yourself,
Yep.
be smart. I think we're going to keep that in mind. We'll keep checking in with data and more times as we move forward,
Absolutely.
And we'll let you know the results of things as they come. We'll give you the data for the half marathon, talk through what happens at the ultra, and then also give all my training splits to the SFRE. One, is it good enough or not? Should be, based on the trajectory we're on right
Yep.
now. And, feeling very happy with the effort. And, there's so much more we haven't really touched on, but that's the whole point of going through this. Nutrition, sleep, family dynamics, mental dynamics,
Yeah.
financial even, having all your ducks in a row before you go into something like this. We're trying to, I think this is a big part of what Scott does at OPEX. It's a much more holistic view of, fitness. And if you ever take a look around his gym, it's the lifestyle guidelines, the type of things we do here. It's meant for that. And so I think we're going to be in a good spot moving forward. So just want to thank Scott for taking the time, and hopefully we make this, we keep being accountable and transparent as we move forward, and that hopefully this helps some of you all training for basic training, extra Army courses, things like that. You'll look and see my strengths and weaknesses as an athlete, and hopefully you can extrapolate some of those things to yourself. And looking forward to continue on here, and hope all of you can stay strong.